Welcome back to Read the Book First. This week, Amanda returns to discuss the 1968 middle grade sci-fi novel, Escape to Witch Mountain by Alexander Key. This book, what a journey we go on reading this book. I hope you enjoy this episode. Next week, we'll be watching the 1975 adaptation, Escape to Witch Mountain, and the 2009 adaptation, Race to Witch Mountain, so make sure you follow along for those episodes. And your weekly reminder, make sure you're rating us 5 stars, leaving happy reviews, recommending the podcast to your friends, subscribing, downloading. It helps us a whole lot. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast. I have posted an update of the upcoming weeks, so if you want to read and watch along, that's where you can get that information. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome, Amanda. Welcome back.
Hi, Janessa. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to be talking about Escape to Witch Mountain by Alexander Key, a sci-fi middle grade, right? Not YA.
Not YA.
Middle grade sci-fi. Well, middle grade wasn't really a thing when it was published, but I would now shelve it in the middle grade section.
Yeah.
Sci-fi book from the 1968.
And boy, does it show.
Oh, it is. It is from the 60s, man.
I can't wait to get to my favorite part. Anyway.
So this book follows siblings, orphaned siblings, Tony and Tia, as they discover that they truly aren't like the other kids, and that means that they have to run away from everyone to the mysterious Witch Mountain. And this book follows that mysterious journey. Immediately, we meet Tony and Tia in the first chapter. Also, for context, I listened to this book on audiobook. It was 4 hours long, audiobook, because I couldn't get my hand on a physical copy, and I don't love e-books, personally.
I checked it out from the library, and then I read it when I had concussion, so.
Oh, boy. But, so just when I listen to audiobooks, for the podcast, I try to read them so I can be very detailed oriented and like make notes and like annotate and stuff, because as the host of the podcast, that's my job. So this will be a little bit wonkier because like I don't know how, like I have less memory of the details via audiobook. So Tony and Tia, we meet them as they are being taken by the welfare worker
Because their grandma just died.
because they know, and they clarify it's not actually their grandma.
Yeah.
But they called her grandma, and they're taken to an orphanage. So, like many, books for children at this decade, the kids have to be orphaned. There's no reason why they should have parents.
Yeah. Did you do any, is Hackett House actually a place?
I did not do any research on the specific places, just because I didn't have time.
Valid.
Yeah. I assumed it started in, New York City. They call it the city. Often.
See, I think it's D.C. because of the reference to the Treasury Department.
Well, they go to Washington later.
Do they? Mm-hmm. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I wrote that part down. That's because they said that. So maybe it's not New York, but it might be like a Baltimore or Philadelphia, some New England, not super north city, as I would say. So Tony and Tia are being taken to the orphanage, and they meet the headmistress, who was an ex prison guard. It describes her as, and she refers to the kids at the orphanage as inmates multiple times.
Yeah,
it is not it's not just a nice orphanage. It's not even Annie's silly drunk lady orphanage. It is sketchy house orphanage.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was in D.C. because D.C. has a history of sketchy house orphanages.
Interesting. But we do know, as we're meeting Tony and Tia, we know that Tony got into a lot of fights at school because his sister, Tia, does not talk. And so he has a lot of, defending for Tia. Tia and Tony can speak telepathically to each other.
Yeah, they describe it as whispering in their heads.
Yeah. So they can talk to each other, and
I think it's implied that she's actually talking out loud, but it's in a different language.
I just took it as telepathically. Just because if she's not talking to any adults, she would attempt to talk to adults.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. It's not super clear because the details are not really there with this writing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's like, this is happening. It's like, okay, but
Yeah.
like how?
It's very much like a radio play from like the 60s.
Yeah.
Like that's the vibe where it's just like a lot of action with no context.
Yeah, just things are happening and you like if you want to know why, like have fun.
Yeah. So they're getting used to being at the orphanage, and we do start learning that they can do other telepathic things.
They have this cool star box.
Yeah, so Tia has an 8-star / double pointed star box that she has her notepad in it that she keeps when she writes to people for communication. And then Tony has a harmonica that when he plays the harmonica, he can make their little dolls that they have dance. And they talk about that and like how they like secretly do it at the orphanage. They don't really do it in front of other people. Though at one point he gets in that fight with that bully.
I will give like Mrs. Grindley, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
I'll give her like a mediocre ounce of credit because like when he gets in that fight and because like Tia's Starbucks gets stolen, he like is like, oh man, I'm gonna be in so much trouble, blah 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 blah, and she's like, don't do it again. But he started it. You're grounded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, small win for not punishing him for not.
Interesting.
Yeah. Bare minimum.
And it's just like they're getting used to living at this orphanage, and then randomly the orphanage is going on a field trip out to like this lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're out on the lake and they're on the bus.
And this nun comes up.
They're like a rest stop, right? Or something like that. Or do they make it to the lake? I'm not even sure if they make it to the lake.
I thought they were at the lake and
Maybe.
they were like there was like another group having a thing at the same time.
That makes more sense than I'm like, wait, are they at a rest stop?
No. It was like they overlapped and they were getting ready to leave, and as they were all kind of crowded together, they overhear this nun.
Yeah, the nun recognizes the 8-point star of the box, right? And so she's like, oh, that's an odd star. And they're like, yeah, that we have all like they say something like, oh, it's our families, or we've always had it, or something like that. And the nun's like, I just got a letter from someone with that same star point or something like that.
I don't think she just got it. She got it like a while ago.
Yeah. But like she like tells them about this letter. And this is the first time Tony and Tia also have no memory before being dropped off at their quote grandma's house. So
which Tony thinks is weird because Tia remembers everything.
Yeah. It's true. So they have this weird interaction with this nun, and then they almost get left behind the bus driver, and they all hurry up onto the bus, and they go back to the orphanage. The next, like, day or week, we aren't really sure, time passes.
They're waiting to hear from the nun.
Oh, yeah, the nun's like, I'll come and talk to you at the...
I'll send you a letter.
Yeah.
I'll send you the letter when I can find it. And they're sitting there, and they're like, cool, we're going to get this letter from this lady. And then that doesn't happen.
And then there's a visitor comes to the orphanage, and it's...
Well, they're also like, we should go talk to Father O'Day. He probably knows this nun because they're both Catholic. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, which is... It ends up being true, but I think they don't, like, they're, like, waiting still because they don't know that the nuns...
They're kind of waiting to figure it out. And
then Uncle... What is his name? Darian? It's Darian. Duranian. That's what the audiobook said. Duranian.
Okay.
Uncle Duranian.
We got there.
Yeah. So this man comes to the orphanage, is like, hey, headmistress, I am Tia and Tony's uncle, Duranian. And he also in my audiobook, he has like a thick Eastern European accent. The audiobook narrator took some choices in accents, which I found confusing later on.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that vibe, but again,
the audiobook is different too than just reading it, unless they say it.
I don't remember them saying that he had an accent. I thought
they didn't say it at all. He just the narrator is like suddenly Eastern European accent when Duranian. There we go. Duranian was
that
talking.
probably also helped the radio play because they were just making up shit that didn't happen.
Yeah. So exactly. But Uncle Duranian's sitting there and he's trying to like take the kids, and he's like,
and Tia's like, this is bad.
Tia's like, he's bad. And then Tia suddenly remembers he's the one that drops her off at grandma's, and that it was and it was for like bad reasons, and like he is just like the vibe of him in general is bad.
And
like,
then Tony,
she remembers.
Tony is like, you need to remember more, and Tia's like, no.
Yeah. And then instead of going with the uncle, they talk to the headmistress.
Well, and the other thing is, the other thing is they don't want to go right away, right? And then like
because he's bad. They don't want to go in general.
He's got bad vibes.
Yeah.
But then he like is like, I got papers that says I've legally adopted you. And it's and so she's like, y'all are being silly, but just give him a night to kind of like chill about it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm gonna come get them tomorrow morning.
Yeah. And so they talk to the headmistress and like, hey, we don't like him. There's a sketchy thing. We also think we know there's this letter that we can find from this nun at Father O'Day's. Can we go talk to Father O'Day? And she lets them call him on the phone. And so they talk to Father O'Day, who my audiobook decided that he was Irish.
I mean, I kind of assumed he was Irish.
But me too, but like full Irish accent. And like later the things he says, it's confusing. But anyways, so Father O'Day, very Irish in the audiobook version, tells them that the nun has passed away and that he's not sure that he's seen any letter with an 8-point star.
Yeah, because like I think they like called the school itself that the nun is from, and that the school that the nun is from is like, oh yeah, no, she died and she also made up shit a lot. So
yeah, and so
then they call Father O'Day,
and then Tony and Tia are just so like distraught because this is like their one kind of thing to escape. But then that night they decide, oh, also Tia has this cat.
Yeah, Tia adopts a cat,
a black cat named Winky.
Yeah.
And so
I'd almost forgotten about Winky.
Winky's a main character throughout this whole book. I don't know how you could forget about Winky. He's everywhere. It's nighttime, and the night before, Uncle Durarian, I keep thinking of him
Can we just
as,
call him Derek?
No, it's not his name. It's Duranian. There we go. I did it. Duranian. I keep wanting to say Duran.
It's a killer last 5 years reference.
This book is from the Dark Ages, so it's fine. But so Tia, Tony, and Winky the cat all sneak out of the orphanage to go down to meet with the priest, Father O'Day. And Father O'Day is like, wait, why are you children here? First off, which is like any good adult would do. And then they're like, we escaped the orphanage. We have these questions from this nun. He's like, oh, I knew that nun. Come in. And then like makes them like comfortable.
He's like so low-key sketchy. And in any other like book, they would have some like fun details. Because I'm like, he like has all these weird connections to like criminal stuff. And they're not exploring it at all. And I'm like, give me more Father O'Day, please. Like, what is his deal?
Exactly. It's like, it's weird vibes. And he just like lets these kids in. He's like, yeah, I'll help you. And the kids are like, you're safe immediately. They're like, we trust you. You're a man of God. You can never do anything wrong. The Catholic Church has never done anything wrong in the entire existence of the Catholic Church.
I mean, I just thought it was her psychic powers.
I mean, maybe that too. But like, they weren't sketched out.
It's really, really, really useful when you have psychic powers to let you know if someone's a good guy or a bad guy. You know?
I wouldn't know. I'm not psychic. Sadly.
Tragic.
Sadly. But he ends up finding the letter, right? From the nun? That the nun had? Or the map of something? I forget. They find something. And like Tony and Tia like they like start making a plan with Father O'Day. And he's, like, helping them.
Yeah.
So Father O'Day has the map that I think he got from the nun. Like, the nun sent it to him or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, the map's there. And the map is wants to send them towards the Blue Ridge Mountains. And so, but then, by this time, it's the morning. And so, they know that Uncle Duranian, if I see the word, I can say it. They know that uncle, his name's Lucas Duranian.
The cat wakes them up.
The cat wakes them up. See? Winky.
The MVP. Mm-hmm. More character than Tony.
More character than Tia.
Tia has character, kind of. She knows things.
Knowing things and having character are not the same. She's literally voiceless throughout this whole book, just saying. Not great. Not great, Alexander Key. Anyways.
You mean a man in the 60s doesn't have a great view of what it's like to be a little girl?
I know, shocking.
Weird.
Yeah, so Winky wakes them up. They realize that Uncle Duranian is gonna come in with their adoption papers, and so the priest is like, "Hey, get in my car. I'll help you get out of here, and I'll at least get you to the bus." Because the map points to like a house, or he's like, "Hey, I have these friends who live
near the town
on the map." And I'll get you to the bus stop. I'll phone them ahead of time.
And it's like so sketchy that he's like, yeah, I know how to help you avoid police. And
right?
I'm like, what is your deal, dude?
It's so weird. And so they get in the car, and like it's a weird kind of like low-key car chase, and then they get away from...
They hide in the convenience store.
Yes, they hide in the convenience store.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
The dude driving didn't think to like stop?
Adults don't look at kids.
I mean, it's true.
It's like, so that helps them most of this book, is the fact that adults don't look at kids.
It's a genre convention, yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. So they eventually get to the bus, and then they take the bus from the quote city, whatever mysterious city that is, to Washington, D.C. And then they take a bus from Washington, D.C. to Winston-Salem, and then from Winston-Salem to Fairview. And I thought it was interesting, maybe just because... like, we live, like, within a day's drive of Winston-Salem. I don't know where Fairview is. I meant to look it up. I don't know if it's North Carolina. I don't know if it's more on the Tennessee side. Like, I don't know where it is. But I don't even know if it really exists, right?
Let's find out.
The whole bus ride until they get to Fairview is, like, pretty... Nothing really happens. They do talk to one policeman, I think, in Winston-Salem, or maybe it was in D.C., and the policeman's like, "Where are your adults?" And like, "We don't have them. We have bus tickets." And he's like, "Fair enough." And he leaves them be. But then he eventually gets the like wanted information, and then he ends up snitching on them, right? Any look on Fairview?
There's a couple Fairviews actually.
I figured
there's a Fairview, North Carolina, which is kind of close to Winston-Salem.
I figured it'd be in North Carolina. That makes sense. Blue Ridge Mountains and near Winston-Salem.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have guessed.
There's also one in West Virginia, but now that I actually look at the map,
it doesn't make sense to go to Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
They get to Fairview, and this is where they don't have to get on another bus. This is where they have to go and find the Father O'Day's friends who they know have an apple orchard.
Don't they like go past his house so that on the bus so that like to try to avoid them?
Not yet.
Oh.
Yeah, this is Fairview is where the whole arresting situation happens. So they're in Fairview, and the sheriff and the mayor meet them when they get off the bus because the cop they had talked to in like DC or wherever told them they're on their way there. And the mayor is like very much like, "Oh, let these kids go. These are not the kids. They could never do any harm." And the sheriff's like, "I want my money. We're going to arrest these kids, dead or alive," like kind of vibe. And it's like very opposite vibe. And like, it's a weird duo, those chapters. And I was just like, this is weird. But they do get arrested and they're in jail. But because they have telekinesis powers,
he's like, "Can I have my harmonica back?"
Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah, you're a kid." And then he uses the harmonica to essentially blow up the jail cell. And then they have all these people who have seen it. So now it's not just like the people, the law.
Oh, and Tia lets out these bears that were in a cage.
Oh, yeah. And they were going to escape, but then she's like, she needs to go back because Tia could talk to animals. It's like her like telekinesis thing. Hence why Winky is such an important part of this book.
Well, Winky like disappears at this point, doesn't he?
Yeah, he disappears after the jail part, right? Like, anyways, so they are running.
Actually, this was the part that I was like, Tony, my dude, I know you're like 10 and you have no personality, but like, he's like, "Oh my God, Tia is so frustrating because she keeps insisting on all these things." And I'm like, "You mean your psychic sister thinks that you should free these bears and you're sitting here arguing with her about it? You mean your psychic sister who's been right about every single person you've interacted with?"
But the bears cause trouble for them.
Well, yeah, but also it helps them escape because the bears get out and then everyone's like, "Oh my God, bears are free." No one has time to try to catch the kids.
Yeah.
But you are right that later I was like, okay, maybe he kind of might have had a point. They were really good up until the point where the bears kept following them.
Yes. And so they're running through the woods and the bears are following them essentially. Or like kind of leading and also kind of following them. But they keep going and like now all these people, like small townspeople are like out on a witch hunt. They've now not just like the law looking for the people who have wanted money on them. It's these kids that have wanted money on them. Now the like
now the
small
town's like,
townsfolk
oh
are
my
like,
god,
you
they're
know,
witches.
they're witches, so we need to go on a witch hunt. They run
They
through
get
the woods.
shot at.
Yeah, they get shot at, right? And none of the bullets hit them because of the telekinesis powers.
Yeah.
Wow. But they're running, and they finally find the house that they're trying to get to, and it's empty. And it's like, looks like they describe it being like empty for more than a week.
Yeah.
And then with Tia, with her telekinesis powers, she's like, we need to hide now. And so they go and hide into the orchard, or like in the woods a bit away. And the car that pulls up ends up being the Duranian and his and like the guy from Washington, some other person that's
the guy
working
from the
with them.
Treasury Department.
Yeah.
Did they give him an Eastern accent too?
No, he is American. Just Duranian had the Eastern European accent.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so they're listening in with their telekinesis powers on this conversation, and they essentially hear the two bad guys go through the house, find out that the kids are not there, but they do find 2 apples that were ripe green or unripe green eaten, and they're like, oh, the kids have been here. And they're like, how? And he's like, well, I grew up in an apple orchard. Only people who are starving will eat apples that are not ripe. That's how they know the kids are in the area.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, let's go. They'll come back because they are starving, and they'll come through this house, and then we'll come back and get them. And so the kids hear this, and so like they're like, okay, well, let's not go to the house because now we know not to.
Yeah.
And at the same time, randomly, they hear Tony hears Father O'Day's voice in his head of like, where are you? Where are you? And so they go and they find Father O'Day in his car somewhere nearby. And like, just because of like somehow he made it down. He had called his friends whose house they were trying to get to, and found out that they were in Canada on vacation. And so he's like, well, I need to go save these kids. So
and like, plus they start remembering this guy named Uncle Benet.
Yeah, this is when we start getting memories. So Uncle Benet, they remembered hiding in a barn with Uncle Benet, like they were hiding in a barn just then again. They remember something about being on at this point, being on a lifeboat, they call it. And it just being scared bad vibes is like what they remember at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, low key. I know the bears were like a bad thing, but also I remember them vaguely talking about in the government, like when they're like bickering, they're like, oh my god, that idiot's gotten everyone all fired up. Now no one's helping us find the kids. And I'm like, the bears were a good call, Tia.
I don't know. I mean, I'm all for
I got
freeing the
overly
bears.
invested in this one thing.
Yeah. I'm fine with them freeing the bears, but like,
It's not that serious.
no. Yeah, because the bears keep following them when they're in Father O'Day's car, so the people keep following them. So like,
That's less good. Yeah, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, so they're in. Oh yeah, so they're in Father O'Day's car, and they're like, okay, we need to go to. There's these 2 small towns nearby. We're not sure which one we need to go to. So they're headed down the road, and they get stopped by guards who are looking for these kids. And because the kids are with Father O'Day, again, adults don't look at kids, so therefore they can easily, go under their nose. Father O'Day here, he talks to these guards, and he gives them the speech about how the guards could accidentally kill neighboring kids with these guns if they're looking for kids. And it's this weird anti-gun seeming rant for Father O'Day. And it's and this is not the first this is the first but not the last weird political thing Father O'Day says.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's the first one I was like, this is. And then also another thing throughout this whole part.
I thought that was just him being manipulative.
No, I think he truly believed it. That's why I felt the narration made me feel that way on the audiobook at least.
Well, maybe he's just a really good liar.
Or maybe, but I feel this book wouldn't be something that they would have a character lie and not tell the audience to lie. This book they would tell.
Good point.
Right? They would
Good
say
point.
he lied, saying blah blah blah. Right? There's no tricking.
He's
the audience.
he's making a point about a witch hunt, I guess. And
Yeah.
I thought he was just being clever.
No, I think he was just honestly anti-gun.
Honest box.
Yeah, but they do find out a little bit from these guards that the mountain, that's the prominent mountain in the area, is called Witch Mountain, and then there's music coming from it and lights coming from it, and it's like, ooh. But another thing before we keep going, through this whole, like, them running, like, from them breaking out of jail, the kids breaking out of jail, to meeting Father O'Day, whenever they're, like, Tony and Tia keep having described whenever they see the nature, like, just being, like, overwhelmed by the beauty of it, and, like, wanting to protect it, and it felt very much like, low-key, like, the author is, like, very, like, environmentally, like, save the, like, trees kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And, like, this, like, the random political bits in this book cracked me up, because it's, like, very brief. Like, with the kids, it's always, like, with the bears, right? Like, we need to protect nature. We need to do better by it. Like, it's
we
very
can't keep them in a cage.
Exactly. And then randomly Father O'Day is, like, no guns, or, like, or the guns will hurt kids. Maybe not no guns, but guns are going to hurt kids if you keep doing
shooting
what you're
off,
doing.
yeah.
Right?
And then he's, like, he's been in Vietnam.
Yeah, like, it's, like, all this weird stuff that does not line up.
Yeah.
Anyways, then we find out Tia remembers, I think it's Tia, I might be wrong, remembers the name Castaway. Or no, Tony randomly remembers it earlier.
Well, they, like, they're trying to, when they're trying to give those
Yeah.
fake names,
Yeah.
and, like, that's one of the things that, like, the nun had talked about is, like, his name was, like, Holloway, Hastaway, Gastaway,
Yeah.
like, stuff along those lines, and it was revealed to be, like...
Yeah, and Tony remembers throughout this chase somewhere that it's Castaway.
I
and
think we were literally castaways, guys.
Yeah. And the guards, and they ask the guards briefly, and they're like, oh yeah, or no, this is later. This is at the store, never mind. That's at the store. But they're, like, driving through this small town, and Tony and Tia start remembering way more and more while they're in the car. They remember that they had landed... The life raft or lifeboats have landed in Eastern Europe, and that they were prisoners and refugees. And it's at this point where I have a quote I wrote down from Father O'Day. Human rights and human suffering mean nothing to the communists. Only the state is important to them, says Father O'Day when mentioned of Eastern Europe. And so, okay, so now we have Father O'Day, who is anti-guns around kids, and now is very, very anti-communist. And, like, and it's just so, it's like, it's random, it felt like.
Yeah, the random, like, the communist government, the communists were going to abuse these people, and the U.S. government would never do something.
Never do that.
Never do that,
But, like,
ever.
also the fact that the narration has him, like, a thick Irish accent, like, almost like a pirate Irish accent. It's, like, it was so weird him saying that, because I'm like, obviously he could be American and have an Irish accent. Like, obviously, that's not the weird part. Is that, like, because his accent's so strong, I'm assuming a lot of his life was in Ireland. And I'm like, this is just all sorts of weird layers this narration is giving me. But, like, they're sitting there having this weird, like, philosophical discussion with the communist thing. And then Tia and Tony are like, oh, yeah, I now remember way more suddenly. Oh, yeah, the witches that live on Witch Mountain are the same people that we are. I know this suddenly. And, like, and I remember our people didn't really care about money. Like, they started learning all this, like, random stuff right then before they get to the town. It's all the car ride from the house where he picks them up to the town where the rest of the
all
stuff
these
happens.
like random memories, and it's like, wow.
And then they remember the ship, and they're like, oh wait, the lifeboats came from a bigger ship. And a ship wasn't in water, it was in space.
In space.
And so we realize, this is when the audience realizes, oh wait, they're not witches,
they're
aliens. And it's not a lifeboat, it's a spacecraft.
Yeah. And it's just, and it's hard to tell, like, it goes back to that Treasure Island thing, because, like, you know, obviously I saw the commercials for the movie when I was
Race to
Witch Mountain, where it was like, they obviously are aliens. And
in the blurb about it, it talks about them being aliens.
Yeah.
On the movies.
They're sitting here and they're, like, talking about all of these things and trying to make it a mystery. And I'm like,
we know you're aliens.
You have a double star magic box, and you got telekinetic powers. You have no discernible family. You're weirdly pale and have dark blue eyes. Like, doesn't make you aliens.
Your sister can telepathically talk to you, but can't really speak any, like, other verbal language.
Yeah. You can talk to animals.
Yeah.
You're
You
psychic.
can make stuff, quote, dance with music. But, like, to be fair, all those things could be witchcraft, more of that stuff, right? Like, it isn't hard sci-fi, the stuff. The telekinesis, less so.
Yeah.
That's more the sci-fi end. But, like, all the other powers, you could, in a world with more detail and more care than this author had, you could make it seem, oh, are they witches? Are they aliens? Like, you could make that, and that would have made this book so far way more interesting.
Yeah, but it's also hard because, like, you know, we know going
and
into
also
it.
the book that you have has the movie cover, which has a flying saucer on it.
Oh,
You didn't realize?
no.
Interesting. First thing I realized was like green disc.
I mean, like, I obviously that, but I didn't realize this was a movie.
Yeah, that's the movie. That's the movie cover for a different one.
What do you know?
Yeah.
And they're also like, this back cover is also like, they're sure they're from another world. And I'm like, no, actually, they are very upset about the fact that they're weird. Tony is very upset about the fact that he's weird.
Yeah.
T is the only one that's like, cool.
I mean,
Tia doesn't have any personality or voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's all from Tony's perspective.
Exactly.
Tony thinks that Tia's wrong about a lot of things, even when she's obviously right.
Anyways, you were way into the Tia and Tony relationship. I was just interested in the rest of the book, apparently. But, like, okay, so in this car ride that we've been talking about for, like, the last 5 minutes, so we go from them starting to remember stuff, Father O'Day being very anti-communist, to suddenly them remembering that they come from a civilization in space, and that their civilization did not care about money, they just wanted everyone to be happy and healthy. And I'm like, are these kids now teaching this old weird priest man to be anti-capitalist? And I'm just, like, so confused of, like, what does the author want us to believe? Is the author anti-communist, pro-communist, anti-capitalist? Like, I can't tell.
It's very classic American. The ideas of communism, where we're not competing about money and we're taking care of nature and we're all in it together and we're not worrying about ourselves, are good. But the second you put in communist state, it's bad.
Yeah.
And dictators. And they're all evil commies that have no religion and no God.
Yep. And it's just, like, it's a weird, like, 2 pages of this book that don't belong in this book. Like, the book has no detail anywhere, and suddenly we have these 2 pages of this weird conversation, and you're like, what do I believe? What do you want me to believe, dude?
It's
like which one?
What does it give me as the reader? You know what else I want to know about? Like, I want to know more about this Uncle Benet guy. Tell me more about him.
We'll get to my rant about what we need to know at the end, once we finish this. Oh, Lord.
I'll hold on to it.
Yes. So they're in the car. They decide to, wash the car so that their car is unrecognizable. So they go into this small town. And they also are like, well, we need to figure out if there are other castaways around here. Let's go ask the mail lady. Because, you know, you can, apparently there's no, like, HIPAA weird laws that you can just tell people that if they have a mailbox there. But anyways, this is the 60s, whatever. And so they go into the post office, and the lady's like, well, I've never heard of a castaway here. And like, oh, how long have you been working? She's like, oh, 6 years. I'm like, okay, you're not, like, we're looking for either like generations ago or like 15 or 10 to 15 years ago. Like, that's the timeline. And he asks someone else in the post office, she, like, yells in the back room, hey, Gary, or whatever the guy's name. And he's like, well, there was some castaways who lived in the other town, but some weird new company that has some, like, weird, like, very, like, modern America company name, like, very generic, like, Do Good Inc. or something, like, bless you, or something weird like that. Bought that whole town essentially, and, like, because it was a company town.
Yeah.
And so there's no more castaways there. So, like, okay, that's not great. And so
they're like, oh, we thought they all died.
Yeah, they're like, they're gone. Like,
they, like, called them, like, hippies or something.
Yeah, something weird. And so they're kind of bummed again, and they decide to go back to the car. Tony looks at the map and, like, starts to be able to remember the other language he spoke. And it's, like, they discover it's, like, Hungarian and English combined. And if you translate it, it ends up saying call castaway. So Tony goes to the phone booth while Father O'Day and Tia are in the car.
Oh my God, yeah.
He goes to the phone booth and he calls the weird company over in the other town, and it gets, like, some, like, generic answer. He's like, I want to talk to Castaway. And the guy's like, OMG, Tony, we've been looking for you forever. And like Tony just trusts that the person on the end of this phone are good guys. And not the weird, like, Eastern European, like, Goonies who are trying to capture him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, he's like, and the guy on the phone is like, okay, where are you? And he's like, well, I'm at this phone booth in this town. And he's like, where's your sister? With Father O'Day. And, like, this kid has no stranger danger. Like, I had more stranger danger talk for my mom for me going to the Walmart by myself while she's in the car to get a thing of milk. And like you know what I mean? Like,
no comment.
Like, there's like no stranger danger. So the person on the phone who we're trusting because Tony trusts is like,
well, they got the psychic powers that tell them which somebody's a good guy.
That never explains that. You keep saying that. They don't have that.
Yeah, they do. It's just all the talk about vibes. It's psychicness. That's all it is.
Well,
it's dumb as shit.
They trust their intuition, and they should not. They're children.
Yeah, but their intuition is proven right every single time because it's in a book.
They were literally in jail.
Yeah, but also but they were arrested, like, going out. What were they gonna do?
Not be smarter? Not walk off the bus? Hope they don't know. Look out the bus first. Put on a disguise. Ask an old lady to be their grandchildren for 10 minutes. This guy on the phone, who we're trusting, and it's infuriating that we're trusting him, it's like, okay, we have 3 cars headed your way. We're gonna, when I count to 3, this car is gonna block you from the bad guys who are now in town too. Oh no. And you have to go and be fast. And it's like...
Also... flash over to, like, that guy who's, like, gets a random phone call and is like, oh my god, these are the children that we've been searching for.
Yeah. Send the cars. Like, they just had this plan ready. There's people in cars constantly ready to go.
So you couldn't spend, like, 5 minutes looking for these fucking children, but
right?
you could have this elaborate rescue plan ready to go.
And, like, from the guys chasing them, these kids have an extra special talent. Like, it seems like even within the community, because apparently, like, we get kind of vibes from it that, like, Tony can obviously speak in English, whereas Tia does not speak out loud, and that the fact that Tony can is, like, a special gift amongst this people.
Yeah.
And so, like, you would think that these people that have specific extra gifts, you would want to go and find.
Yeah. Like, put a little bit of effort in, maybe. Like, just a little.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
If the kids can figure out how to get on a bus all the way down, you can do the opposite.
Yeah.
And they have money.
These kids, they just sent one letter to, like, this one Catholic company, and then they were like, all right, that's it.
Infuriating. Anyways, the plan goes off well, except for, oh no, Winky's in the middle of the street, and he almost messes up this whole plan to go and grab Winky for his sister, because he knew his sister would never forgive him if he didn't have Winky. And so he grabs Winky. He almost gets caught by the people, but he's able to not. And they get in the car, and then there's another car chase. A second car chase, I believe, in this book.
At least.
I hate car chases. In movies and books.
It's not even a good car chase.
No, they're just, it's like
might
Father
be
O'Day's.
Behind us.
It's Father O'Day's, and then they're the quote good guy cars, and then the bad guy cars, and they're going towards Witch Mountain.
And there's no description about anything that ever happens, so it's not like
they're just going.
Fun.
Yeah, they're just going. And then they stop, and then the kids run into the woods.
Yeah. And that's the end.
It's not quite the end.
Oh,
because then Father O'Day has a big discussion and a kind of interrogation with the bad guys. And he has this whole thing where, like, essentially he's talking to the bad guys and says, God is capable of creating many worlds and many people. Like, his whole, like, little speech of, like, essentially... And also, Duranian is, like, depicted as the devil to O'Day. So, like, we have Father O'Day, who is, like, God, and then we have Duranian, who's, like, the devil, and this weird, like, conflict. And he's, like, and it's, like, instead of, like, you know, we think of a lot of religious people classically, at least Western religious, don't necessarily love the idea of aliens.
Yeah.
But so here we have Father O'Day being like, I believe in God that's powerful and can create anything. And I'm going to say that to the bad guy. And then that's how the book ends.
Oh, there's this really great paragraph where it's like, there were ugly mutterings, and for a moment it looked to Father O'Day as if he might have trouble on his hands. He smiled in sudden anticipation and took a step forward. There were 6 of them, but the Lord had given him a mighty body. And there was no better spot than a mountaintop for taking on the minions of the devil. He was almost disappointed when they retreated to their cars. And that was it.
And that's how it ends.
Oh, and then he's like, after he wanted his first view of Witch Mountain to be in the dusk, blah, 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 lights and music and blah, blah, blah. Then he would wait a while before he joined the children on Witch Mountain.
That's how it ends.
Yeah.
So this book, there's lots of things that infuriate me about this book. The biggest one is that this is essentially, if you were to picture a classic middle grade adventure sci-fi, this book equates to the first third of that book.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unfinished book.
Or, like...
It's the first act of a book, right?
Yeah. Or 10 minutes of the epilogue.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, I was reading this book and I was like, what would be a much better story? The whole landing in, like, Eastern
crash
Europe.
landing. But I want to, like, it leaves you with so many questions, like, were those people good guys?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, what kind of aliens are, like we want to learn about all this, like, cool sci-fi stuff.
How have they continued to like, live in this society under encroachment of land purchasing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's really what I want to know.
Yeah.
Like, how have they kept a secret?
And if only so many of them can actually talk out loud and not just telekinetically, or telepathically, then how are they being successful and making enough money to still own this land?
Yeah.
And, like, sustain
pay
their
taxes.
life?
What do they do with social security numbers?
They don't have social security numbers.
Why not, though? Why does nobody have questions about that?
I mean, you obviously have questions about it, and I'm sure you're not the only one. And, like, okay, so the ending, we have a paragraph, right, where he's like, he looks at Witch Mountain, he wants to see it at dusk, and then he goes and joins them. So
but he's like, I'm gonna wait a while.
Yeah. So my cousin is very excited that we're watching these movies because growing up, she watched these movies a lot. She has not read the book, I asked. But when I was texting her about it, she asked me if I thought Father O'Day was one of the aliens. And I think that's based off of the movies, so I have no idea the context in the movie world. I think based off the book, he's not, because if he was a part of the aliens, he would have saved them faster. Why let them suffer in an orphanage?
Yeah.
Like, if he was one of them, of the aliens, he could have easily went to grandma's.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that doesn't make sense.
I think that question will probably make more sense once we watch the movies.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Let's make a short, non-exhaustive list of all the things you wish we had learned more about besides taxes.
I want the rest of the story. Mm-hmm. This is the first act. If it had 2 more acts with details, I would be okay with how sucky the first act was, right? You know, like, the adventure is fun. Like, if I was 12 years old, I would have loved this book. And, like, I loved it as in, like, I would have read it in one day and then moved on to my next book, like I did with lots of these.
Yeah.
Like, I read books like this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, the same kind of weird genre. It's not, like, a total huge book, but, like, oh, this is a fun one-day read.
Oh my gosh, the kids are escaping the adults.
Exactly. And so, like, from that point of view, like, it's fine. But as an adult reading this, it's infuriating because the main characters have no character. And I will argue that Tony has more character than Tia. I think... Okay, here's what we know about Tia. She's telepathic. She likes animals. She wants animals to be happy. And she remembers everything.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, sometimes...
Tony is bossy.
He's got a bit of an internal conflict.
He has, for sure, an internal conflict. He is kind of the parent of the two because of the communication barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the whole fighting issue. He, like, so, like, not that I'm not saying he's a better character. Like, obviously, Tia's like, if I was going to have one of the 2 powers, I would want Tia's powers.
If they had anything about Tia in, like, other than her relationship to Tony, or, like, gave her any kind of characterization or agency outside of Tony at all, she'd be better.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying neither of them are good characters.
Yeah. No,
but I will say that Tony has more character than Tia. It's just that they're all negative.
That's fair.
So he's not likable. 100% not likable. Like,
he's a little shit.
Yeah. And, like, I used to love books about orphans growing up. And, like, this is the most boring book about orphans I've ever read.
Have you ever read The Boxcar Children?
Yes. My mom loved them.
I really like the first one.
Okay, I don't remember most of them because my mom read them to me when I was like 6.
Oh, yeah.
So, like,
I only read the first one.
I'm sure we only read, no, my mom only like 2 or 3 before we went on.
All the other ones after that are boring because it's just like...
It's just the repetitive.
It's not... They don't even live in a freaking boxcar anymore. They
Like-
live in the boxcar in their, like, grandfather's, like, backyard. And they just go solve mysteries. And I'm like... I mean, I guess it's realistic that the children don't live in the woods forever, but also, like, rude. That was the fun
That's the
part.
fun part. But, like, that has a lot of, this book has a lot of kids in the woods, right?
Yeah.
But, like...
But the thing that's cool about the boxcar children is it gives a lot of details.
Well,
on-
this has no details.
Exactly. Like, they give us a lot of, like, oh, how are they feeding themselves? How are they getting water? And this is just, they're hungry.
Yep.
They got apples.
They got apples.
They ate corn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the corn. They did eat raw corn. Yeah. I don't know. This book,
Uncle Benet, what's up with him? Like,
just any backstory.
how did he get shot when they can't get shot?
Yeah. Well, maybe he was, like, using his telekinesis powers to protect them. But we don't know because they don't give us that detail. They could have 2 sentences.
What happened to their parents, like, died in the crash? That's what they
And
tell
also,
us.
doesn't it talk about how they have different parents?
Oh.
I might have heard that. I might have been wrong. It was an audiobook. That's the hard thing about audiobooks. These little tiny details escape me.
See, I think they were siblings because I didn't get any I didn't get the vibe that they weren't.
Okay.
But that doesn't always mean a lot because
Yeah.
Anyway, there was another thing I was gonna say. Oh yeah, other things I want to know. Like, is the treasury guy like just a Russian spy, or like did he turn traitor, or like
Or is he just a random dude that's lying about being a treasurer so people will
yeah,
listen?
like
'Cause
is
it's
he?
the 60s, they don't have internet.
Yeah, is so like what's his deal? Are they trying to get them back to the Russians? Are they trying to get them back to the U.S. government? Are they like? Also, like, why the hell did the dude whose name I'm not going to bother remembering?
Duranian?
Yeah. How come he was just like, oh yeah, these psychic children that were on this boat, like, I'm just going to go get
Why
rid
did I
of
drop
them.
him off to this lady?
Why did I drop him off to this lady? Why did
See,
he
like, part of me, because he had an Eastern European accent in my audiobook, I'm like, okay, he's not with the aliens, but he also could have been an alien that learned Hungarian when they crashed. And so maybe there's a separate aliens that is anti, like, is there another, like section of aliens? Are there other aliens around the planet? If there's this crash,
What's causing the bad vibes?
what made their home planet destroyed? What destroyed it?
Why are they so like gung ho about protecting this planet when their own planet couldn't be kept safe?
This book is awful.
Why is Tia obsessed with animals? Why
Because of course little girls are obsessed with animals.
Oh, that's even worse than I thought.
No, it's such a stereotype,
Oh yeah.
especially from this era. This little girl's, she's not going to be able to talk. She'll have no personality trait except for she likes to save animals.
Also, some quick math here, which I know is your favorite thing. Father O'Day is talking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I served in Vietnam," and I'm like, "When did you serve in Vietnam?"
This book was published in 1968.
And it takes place in '68.
Yeah. So then,
But like when?
Like a
a couple
years?
years ago? Like,
Yeah.
did he get off his tour of duty? Was he drafted? Was he a
was
conscientious?
he there?
objector?
Was he there as a priest?
Yeah,
You know, being an
like-
old man just going over there.
Yeah.
I think that would make the most amount of sense, but we won't know because there's no detail in this.
Also,
fucking
they don't
book.
really tell us how old he is.
No.
Like, because my vibe was always like elderly gentleman who like immigrated like in the 20s, but then he's like, "Oh yeah, I served in Vietnam," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that don't make sense."
Yeah.
Also, do you have no other life that you're willing to immediately just give everything up to go join these children on a mountain? That's a little weird, bro. It's sus.
Yeah. This book's weird. Do you want to know a little bit more about Alexander Key?
Aside from the fact, can I make like an educated guess?
Did you look at his Wikipedia page?
No.
Okay, this is where this information is coming from.
I think he's also Catholic.
Okay, I did not get any religious information.
Father O'Day is his insert character.
All right, so
Totally original character, do not steal.
So Alexander Key grew up mostly in Florida. His family's, when he was like under 10 years old, it didn't like, the math was weird on Wikipedia, but his family had owned a sawmill and a cotton gin, but that was destroyed by night riders. Shortly after that was destroyed by night riders, his dad passed away. And then between that and when he was 15, he went to 14 different schools. When he was 15, his mom passed away from an accident, and then between the ages 15 and 18, he was raised by various relatives before then going to college, and then he was an author for most of his life. He wrote a lot of books. This is the most... There's like one other book that ended up being pretty successful, but this is the most successful one because Disney picked it up as a movie.
Yeah.
In the 70s. But the fact that he like has so much trauma in his life with his parents, and he went to 14 different schools, no wonder this book is about kids running away from adults and like
and having absolutely no stability.
Yeah, like just that little like bit I read on Wikipedia about him, I was like, oh man, this is some release for you, isn't it? Like, I'm glad you got it in that form. I hope so. But yeah, honestly, it was very little information about this guy. But do you want to hear the fun things about the adaptations? This book, published in 1968, was pretty popular, got picked up by Disney to be made a movie in 1975. That movie was very successful, and so they made a movie sequel called Return to Witch Mountain, which was published or debuted in 1978. That sequel movie to the first movie was so popular that Alexander Key was hired to make a novelization of the second movie. So there is a sequel book, but it's a novelization of the movie, which is a sequel to the adaptation of the first one. Are you following? Do you need me to repeat it?
And then just let me like clarify. So this book happens.
Yes.
Disney's like, ooh, we can make money.
Yes.
They make a movie.
Yes.
The movie's really popular.
Yes.
So they're like, ooh, we can make more money. So they make another movie.
Return from Witch Mountain. Yes.
Return from Witch Mountain. So they make that movie. And then they're like, hey, can you do more? Can you like write this up so that people think it's also a book instead of something that we just made up? And then he's like, hell yeah.
Yep. And then that was all popular enough that they made a third movie called Beyond Witch Mountain, which came out in 1982. So that's the first trilogy. And of the trilogy, I believe the first two are on Disney Plus. I did not check if the third one was. All right. Then in 1995, before Disney Channel original movies was like a title, they made a straight-to-TV movie called Escape to Witch Mountain. The 1995 one stars Elizabeth Moss, our favorite Scientologist. And by favorite, I mean just a Scientologist. I've looked online. It says you can get watch it on Amazon Prime. I looked at it. It is not. It's connected to a different movie just called Witch Mountain, which has nothing to do with the series at all.
Wow.
So I have not found Escape to Witch Mountain, the 1995 straight-to-TV movie version. All right. And then fast forward to 2009.
To the one I actually know.
Race to Witch Mountain. This movie starring The Rock. The director, when making this, wanted to make a modern adaptation specifically of the book and earlier movies. So they change, I know from just reading the summary of it, they change a lot.
Yeah.
So that is the adaptation world of this book, which is wild. Oh, also, I forgot. Very important. The sequel movie, Return from Witch Mountain, 1978, stars of the adult roles are Bette Davis and Christopher Lee.
Like Christopher Lee, like Lord of the Rings,
like
Christopher Lee?
Yeah, and Bette Davis as in like famous actress. But yeah, so this book is wild. Alexander Key's life sounds wild, and the adaptations are wild.
That's a lot.
And honestly, that's my review of this book. It's just wild and boring.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not wild. It's just kind of. It's like I'm reading it and I'm like,
it's wild how boring it is.
It's kind of like this is the epitome of I am not the target audience for this book, and I kind of like remember. I feel like a little hypocritical because people like kept telling me that about like Treasure Planet, where it's like it's for kids, you can't get mad about it, and I'm like that's kind of how I feel about this book. I'm like, yeah, it's for kids.
Yeah, for sure. I think this book, I would rate it on a good day 2 stars. But probably 1.5 out of 5.
I'd give it 2 stars. It's like, it's a book that's not for me. I mean, it's for children.
Yeah.
But you could also give your children better books.
Exactly.
Have them read Animorphs.
But I am very excited to watch the movies.
Which movies are we watching?
So, I want to watch The Escape to Witch Mountain, the 1968 one, and Race to Witch Mountain. I will probably watch the sequels if they're on Disney.
Okay.
I think podcast-wise, we should
I only need to be prepared to talk about the one I know.
Escape to Witch Mountain and Race to Witch Mountain. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
Don't give your author inserts political rants. It's weird.
Oh, man. The political rants are bad. with so little context.
Maybe spend less time telling me about how you feel about guns and more time telling me about Uncle Benet, you know?
True. Very true. All right. Thank everyone for listening. Make sure you're subscribing and rating the podcast and all of that. We have over 250 downloads, which is very exciting.
That is very exciting.
Yes. Make sure you're following the Instagram at Read the Book First podcast. The schedule for the upcoming weeks is up there, so you can read and watch along. And I'm sure Amanda will be back. Well, I know she will in December, but you guys don't know what's happening in December. Not yet.
When I'll be back to watch the movies.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Thank you for listening, and
read the book first. Woo!